Hello and welcome to another Bad Comic Review. Today we're looking at Mr. Miracle issue 4. Now this is part of the 12-issue maxi series from DC, and we pick up shortly after we left off. In the previous issue, Scott has been beaten by Orion pretty severely, and Barda's at his bedside, and she's really upset, and there's a knock at the door. She is even less happy about this visitor because it's Light Ray. He has come to tell her that it is now declared that General Free is considered an agent of Darkseid and an enemy of New Genesis. Barda slaps him. Scott is given the choice of either having an execution or a trial, which of course is a sham trial. Scott chooses trial, and Barda tells Light Ray to get out of the house. Light Ray says, well, where do you want to have it? He says, let's just do it here. He's expecting a delivery of some equipment, and he doesn't want to just sitting by the door. So Light Ray says something else kind of smart alecky about a trial here, and says thank you. And Barda gives him a couple of quick punches. He calls her a name, and she hits him again. And she is very unhappy. But we get this same thing with the TV set with the wavy lines, and it happens throughout the issue. It's not just the TV anymore. Now it's bleeding into actual conversations, whereas every other time it had been limited to just the television set, but it's this blurring of reality. It's really interesting. Well, Mr. Miracle has an act to perform where a barrel gets hit by a train. He of course escapes, but the act is somehow tied into the way this whole thing is playing out. Like, the whole story is actually just an escape act. So I think it's a metaphor within the story. Anyway, of course, Orion shows up with an entourage. He's got Light Ray and a security guy, it looks like. They got a veggie tray, which actually plays into some funny jokes. Mr. Miracle has to sit on a chair while Orion declares himself as the Highfather. He gets to decide who is the prosecutor, the defendant, and the defense attorney, and the judge, and he decides he's all three because that is his privilege, and to deny that would be to deny the wisdom of the Highfather. So he says, "Shall we begin?" And Mr. Miracle gets up and has a carrot because he's a smart aleck. Without too much problem, they go into the trial, and Highfather extracts a lot of information out of him, and it's actually really telling important information about what Scott believes. And as he answers, a couple times we get that blurred out TV out of focus image, and it happens several times throughout, but only during critical questions. It's really interesting how that's done. Of course, Orion's being a total jerk about the whole thing. And Scott, he's not letting Scott put any nuance into his answers. It's either true or false. There can be no I don't knows, no well that depends. It's always very black and white. And of course that is not always reality, but Orion's jerk. So Orion eventually makes him mad enough that Scott kind of snaps. Scott's a little unhinged. Orion asks him if he is the anti-life equation true or false, and I don't think Scott knows. He's really confused by something. There's a lot going on that we're not really seeing. We're just seeing that Scott's pretty unstable. Well, he hits Orion really hard. Like, there's a look of fear in Orion's face, and Barda has to comfort Scott and basically keep him from attacking him, and Orion even's like, oh man. And then he just pronounces that Scott is in fact guilty, and he should present himself in 3 days to be executed. We close the issue out with Barda holding Scott, comforting him. And throughout the issue, there's only one panel where it says Darkseid is. So that's early on in the book too. So poor Scott is in some dire situation, but this was a very good issue. It really kind of pulls a lot of information out of Scott. He doesn't know his own real name. Scott Free is just what Granny Goodness used to call him, and now that the real Highfather is dead, he'll never know his true birth name. That is upsetting, obviously, to him, as is a lot of the other things. He doesn't seem to know what to do, and he seems like he's very lost. He hates his job, he hates New Genesis, he hates Apocalypse, he hates pretty much everything. So it's a very telling issue, and I think this is a very pivotal point in the series. I've got to read issue 5 next. It's going to bother me if I don't. I'm hoping to have that one up later this week or early next week. Got a lot of other comics to read, but this continued to be great. Tom King did a really good job writing it. Mitch Gerard's pencils, inks, colors, and variant cover did a good job. Clayton Cowles letters, great job. All around a fun book. Continues to be an incredibly good series, and I'm really excited to read issue 5. But that'll do it for this episode. As always, thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you get a chance, go out and buy Mr. Miracle after you hit like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for listening.